Mr. President, following the most recent tragedies in Paris, as well as San Bernardino, there has been a backlash of hatred directed against asylum seekers, immigrants, and Muslims in many OSCE countries, often fueled by populist or extremist parties such as Le Pen in France, the UKIP in Great Britain, the True Finns in Finland, Swedish Democrats, Australian Freedom Party, or the Golden Dawn in Greece. Worse still, this kind of xenophobia bleeds into the discourse of mainstream parties. As such, I will add an increased focus on prejudice and discrimination linked with migration and refugees crisis to my priorities. So, Mr. President, in addition to focusing on anti-Semitism and discriminatory policing and the anti-Muslim backlash, I will also look at the protection of migrants and refugees, as that's becoming an area of discrimination troubling in the OSCE region, including in our own country, the United States. I am particularly troubled by the spike in violence in our own country directed at houses of worship and community centers fueled by escalating anti-Muslim discourse. In Palm Beach, Florida, vandals broke all the windows in an Islamic center, ransacked the prayer room, and left bloody stains throughout the center. That cannot be tolerated in our country. A number of mosques have been reported receiving death threats and messages of hate. A pig's head was thrown at a Philadelphia mosque. Shots were fired at a mosque in Connecticut, and a fake bomb was left in a Virginia mosque not far from where we are here today in the United States Capitol. I disagree in the most emphatic way possible with those who would have us call for excluding people from this country based on their faith and limiting political participation based on religion. That's not who we are. That's not our values. The images of Jewish refugees on the SS St. Louis turned away port after port, many of whom ultimately perished in death camps. The image of American citizens, including children in prison and internment camps solely because of their race, are dark corners of our own history. We must be careful to not retread that same path. It is one reason I question those who describe terrorism as a Muslim problem. Such statements prevent our communities from working together against a common threat. The slaughter of school children in Columbine, the massacre of churchgoers in Charleston, and the Oklahoma City bombings were not white problems just because the perpetrators were white. Neither should the attacks in Paris and San Bernardino be distilled simply as Muslim problems. Radicalization is a very real problem that currently tries to exploit the Muslim community, but it is our problem. Muslims, Jews, Christians, whites, Latinos, blacks, Europeans, Americans, to come together, all Americans, to solve this problem. When I see young people who engage in these horrible acts, I question why they were susceptible to such great untruths that would allow them to harm themselves and others. No family should have to lose its mother, son, or cousin to mass shootings. No family should have to live with the fear that a loved one were the perpetrators of mass violence. We must work together to guard against such ideologies that would steal our young people from us. Given that the United States is historically a nation built upon immigration and the tenets of religious freedom, Americans have long lived alongside each other and have seen people of different faiths live together in peace. Muslims have lived in America since colonial days and have served under the command of George Washington. There is an estimated 5,900 Muslims who currently serve in the United States Armed Services, defending our country and defending our way of life. When the Supreme Court ruled this summer in favor of a young Muslim woman who allegedly had suffered employment discrimination because of her headscarf, Justice Scalia announced the 8-1 decision of that court, noting, and I quote, "This is really easy." And he was referring to the fact that neither immigrants nor Muslims are new to our shores. Islam is also not new in Europe. Europe's own historic relationship with the rest of the globe has set the stage for ties that have long served as a backbone for prosperity for the Western world. Europeans have created a presence throughout the world, and that is a two-way street. Many countries in the OSCE region, including our own, therefore have a learned history of integration that can be useful in addressing the increasing diversity stemming from the refugees and changing demography. Given the conflict that have forced mass displacement and migration, we should support long-term inclusion and integration efforts at the national, regional, and local levels throughout the OSCE region, especially with the leaders of the humanitarian efforts for Syria and other refugees, such as what is being done today in Turkey and Germany, Sweden, Austria, and the OSCE partner states such as Jordan and Lebanon. They're taking on tremendous burdens of the refugees because they know it's the right thing to do.